Hi, Jim here, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast. This week, I'm joined by filmmaker Craig Conway. Hi, Craig. How you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thanks. Good to be here.
Good. Thanks for joining me. So let's start with you. I'm assuming you've done a bunch of films as an actor, so I'm assuming that's where it all started for you in acting.
Yeah. I started off in theatre, to be honest. I never really thought about TV or film, and I did probably a good 15 years of just theatre touring all over Europe, all over England. And then it started getting into that multimedia side of theatre back in the day. And luckily for me, a few people saw me in the footage as well as on stage, and that was it. Really, it just seemed to happen. There was a TV show, and then Neil Marshall was in the audience one day, and he basically introduced himself, and I got introduced to him, and we kind of bonded and started doing films.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lots of films, and so Neil Marshall's interesting. We'll come to him because he's on your poster for your latest film. So the film's Red Riding. Tell me a little bit about the story and how that project came together.
Yeah, well, I did a movie as an actor a couple of years ago called Drained, which was written and directed by Peter Stiliano. The DOP on that was Daniel Patrick Vaughan, who is now the producer on Red Riding. And they'd been working on this concept, and they told me about it, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds absolutely brilliant." And at the time, I was developing a feature, and I was kind of heading out to LA to try and get the funding for it and get it moving. And things didn't transpire anyway. And we were literally just walking along um, Venice Beach, and I got a call from Daniel saying, "You know that film, this Red Riding project?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "We actually thinking, would you like to direct it? Because we know you want to direct." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is too good to be true." So that was it. I just, yeah, on the spot was like, yes, I'm in. And I just love the concept. I think it was very clever because what Peter didn't do is kind of the thing that seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment, which is take a fairy tale and make it into some kind of gore fest. There was no popcorn in it. It was a very dark tale. It was modern. It was contemporary, and I worked with Daniel and Peter over several drafts of the script to get it to where it felt like it was ringing true, and it had a real working class vibe to it. Red's from a council estate. We actually shot on the council estate I grew up in. Um, and it was one of those things where it had a feel of the Northeast, then it moved up to Scotland, and it was very much more about the psychology, the kind of, I think, how families can twist and manipulate one another, and that
Okay.
that's what interested me.
Right, gotcha. So give me what is the basic story for the film?
It's essentially our young Red is kind of looking after and parenting her own mum. They live alone together in a really kind of rundown flat, and she's got our mother seems to tend to always get these um kind of dreams, premonitions, but she's a drug addict. She's off the radar. She's kind of all over the place. There's no stability, and she talks about a wolf who took her arm. And then we essentially find out that her mum ODs, and Red has to rethink her life, rethink who she is. She meets her grandma, who tells her, actually, your family's well off. You've got nothing to worry about. And were it not for the troubles of our inherited past, everything should turn out all right. But Red has this distinct feeling that all's not what it is. So without giving away too many spoilers, we go on the Red Riding Hood into the woods, into the middle of the arse end of Scotland, to suddenly find out that this lavish lifestyle that's been thrust upon her is not all it's cracked up to be. And it turns into a really dark and twisted human story, um, which I think um, has a real kind of, it's a drama to it, but with elements of horror, and like I say, elements of that psychological manipulation of how families can lie to one another, which I think is really interesting.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that sounds right up my street. So it's interesting there for other filmmakers, I guess, because there are two pathways you can go down. I think with something like this, you can go down the Winnie the Pooh, blood and honey thing, where you're taking existing things and slapping some gore and stuff around it. But this, I guess, what you've done here is you've gone for something that's kind of an existing thing. It's everybody knows Red Riding Hood,
Yeah.
but taking it a completely different path. But it's still got that kind of, you can identify it. You know the rough story, so you sort of know it's going to be dark and it's going to be creepy. So where are you in the process of that at the moment? Where's the film? Is it finished? Is it post production?
Yeah, it's finished. It's complete, and it's just been announced for its world premiere at the Glasgow Fright Fest.
Lovely.
So we'll have the first screening in March, I think the tickets went on sale on Friday, and it sold out by Sunday,
Beautiful,
which
beautiful. That
was
sounds good.
amazing. Yeah,
um,
exciting.
that's not bad for your first feature.
It's not actually.
So then let's talking about the shoot for the film.
Yeah.
So, what did your history acting? What did that teach you about directing actors?
Do you know what? I think because I directed in theatre, I've always really admired somebody coming in and kind of trying to guide you through a vision. So one of the things that was really important to me, in which Daniel Patrick Vaughan really helped, was he allowed me to have that rehearsal time, and especially with Victoria Tate, who plays Red Riding. I mean, she's just incredible. But it was so important to have the ability to not just turn up on set like we do these days and just drop in a performance. We worked it, we spoke it through. We did online until she came up here. Then we rehearsed every night. We would spend time going through the scenes for the next day. And we had about 4 or 5 days before everybody arrived to Scotland to really work all of the scenes. And I had private time and one-to-ones with all of the actors. And I think that's something which is lacking so much. And for me as an actor, I know even my anxiety going on to set now, where you're in and you don't even meet the director half the time. You're just told, coming in, do your bit, get off. And that's kind of something I just want to bring back. So part of the integrity behind the piece was to ensure that the cast and crew alike spent time together, knew what we were doing, walked the scenes, walked the locations, and everybody was in there as an equal. And that was a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love more time for that kind of thing on the films I make. It is tough, especially when you're on micro or low budget, to find the time for that. But it does pay off, I think, if you can spend that time with your cast and crew. So, as an actor who has been plopped into, turned up on set, right, do your business, camera rolling. What's your advice for actors in those sorts of situations where you don't get time with the director?
I mean, you have to you have to get the thick skin, really, because your mind automatically goes to, what are they thinking of me? So that anxiety level can be through the roof, and especially when you're working with uh, very high profile named actors and producers and directors. You walk onto a set, and if you don't have that introduction or even just a cup of tea with the person you're acting opposite, it can be extremely overwhelming. So I think the advice is to sit within yourself. Don't overthink. Just be, and make sure you've prepped your work back at home if you've been given the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I had a conversation with an actress who directed her first feature, and she talked about when you're on set, sometimes you fall into this mode of, oh, I want to please them. I want this to be good for them. I want them to like it. Whereas really, it's more about what you're doing and, like you say, the prep, getting into that character and concentrating on yourself
Yeah.
rather than what people are going to think of you. So, a couple of logistic questions that I'm sure filmmakers want to ask, and this may be not your bag and the producer's bag, but do you know how the film was funded?
Do you know what? It was a private investment, as far as I know.
Yeah, private.
I don't know the full details, but I do know. Yeah, he found a private backer, and it was a reasonable budget. So it was kind of yeah, it was a real lovely thing to have an investor who I don't think necessarily was just involved in films in the past, but they loved the story. They loved what it was about, and they bought into it, and yeah, so that was a wonderful find, I think, for the
Yeah,
producer.
sounds good. Can you just forward me their details? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
um, so, so what's having done it now? What's your advice for someone who's about to direct the first feature film?
um, Again, I think it's very similar to acting in the way of don't overthink. Where you can, allow the actors to inspire where the story is going. Because I think sometimes we tend to grip very hard to what our ideas and our ideals are. And actually, one of the most beautiful things that I found on that set, even some of the runners, just chatting to them and having dinner on a night, or kind of out in the grounds walking, you ask them their feedback, and some of their suggestions, you go, that's bloody good, and you know you can go with that. So be open to the accidental as well. Don't just stick with it because it sounded good on paper, or it looked good in the storyboard. Just let yourself go.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree with that. And it's tough, isn't it? Because when you're on time and budget, you sometimes you feel you have to stick to the plan, otherwise it'll all go to pot and it'll go off the rails. But yeah, listening to that creativity from everyone is really
Yeah,
important. Um, so you're making the film. What was the toughest day on set of that movie?
I think I'll be honest. I think it was the first day.
Yeah,
It was that thing of going, is anybody actually going to respond to what I think or say? And the fear was so high because I'd waited so long to do it. And of course, some of the cast members I'd worked with before as actors, and they'd said to me, "You've got to direct, you've got to direct." So suddenly they were there supporting me. Neil obviously support me as an exec producer, and I'm going, if I can't do this, what the hell are they going to think of me? And am I now cutting off ever getting employed as an actor too, if I get this wrong? So yeah, the first day was just overwhelming. But within minutes, as soon as we started turning over, that was it. It was just excitement all the way.
yeah. You've got to get that camera rolling. That's a good first step. So you've got Neil Marshall exec producing. You've worked with him on a bunch of films. What did he give you any advice going into this? Did he kind of set you up with anything?
Yeah, he did. I mean, again, it's. I think it's the overthinking. He was very good at calming me down. He's very good at saying, well, where is it you want to take this story? How are you going to kind of connect with your cast, and just being there as a real friend, as a mate, but somebody that I've always looked up to and respected. So on the days where it did feel like, ooh, this is going to be a hard to get through. Are we going to make the day? Are we going to get the call sheet through? I was able to just pick up the phone, and I knew he was there. And sometimes even just knowing somebody like that is there for you, it calms you right down. So he was very much instrumental in my personal journey on this, rather than being hands on within the actual process. He was there really as a mentor and a guide.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. And then looking back on the shoot, what's the biggest mistake you think you made?
I would think probably not speaking out more when I felt there was a kind of scene not being put together the way I would like, and that was down to, the producer is also the DOP, so it's very difficult at times, because he's extremely good at what he does, and he knows what he's doing, but also he has a very big high end personal investment in this. So there is a point to it where, I wasn't. It wasn't like it was just my project.
Mm.
So there's moments I had to let go when what I would love to have done was go, actually, can we do it this way? But necessity, money, budgets, time, and also it was his baby, as in the whole production. You have to have respect there. And so, but I wish I'd spoke up just a little bit more. But actually, it worked well, and I'm extremely grateful and feel very blessed to have been given the opportunity.
Yeah, Yeah, that is a fine line to skate, isn't it? Is trying
It
to,
is.
especially if someone's got that much vested in it. So you're also, I've noticed you've judged on a few film festivals. So I've got Terror on the Tyne, Sunderland Short Film Fest. I think it's coming up.
Yes.
So for filmmakers out there who make short films, what are you looking for in a short film? What are you looking for in a good short film?
I mean, obviously, I'm always drawn to performance because I think that's great. But actually, it's the ease at which you can let yourself go with what you're seeing, because a lot of times I think people are trying to impress, so they come in big and bold, and then the idea kind of dips off. Whereas some of the shorts that I saw at the Terror on Tyne, um, they had a real honesty about them, which I love. There's a rawness about them as well. I think things being too clipped and too clean and too well molded, it kind of annoys me because I go, nah, I want to feel like I've happened upon the film, and they didn't quite know where it was going. There's something about the unknown that I like more than the known and the clipped and clean methods. I'm not interested in kind of big effects or anything. It's human stories that really draw me in, and whether they be in the style of horror or comedy or whatever, if the human being representing the character on that screen can draw me in, then I'm with you all the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I've judged on a few festivals myself, and it is, yeah, getting that connections right. And also there is a little bit of a it is a bit of a tough one being a judge because you're sort of conscious of some of these smaller films that are trying to punch above their weight. You kind of respect them more than a film sometimes that's been around the world in festivals, because you think, oh well, they've had their time in the sun. This film's trying to do something a bit different. So it is a real juggling act when you're judging. Out of interest, with the festivals you've done, do they all work the same way as a judge? Because it's something that uh, someone who enters a lot of festivals wouldn't necessarily appreciate. So when I've done it before, you get a massive spreadsheet and you kind of mark it on editing, on camera work, on acting. Is that your experience, or have you judged differently?
Yeah, no, it has been that, but I think there's been a bit of that. But for me, ordinarily, when they're asking me in, they're mainly getting me to view performances. And I think that's great. That's fine. So they don't really call me in for the technical expertise because of my background. So I think it's mainly when I get asked to judge, it's really look at the performance and the stories, and judging more or less on the actors rather than the actual aesthetic.
Yeah. So going back to Neil Marshall, we've done a bunch of films with him. What are your memories of some of those movies? So you got Dog Soldiers, Doomsday. What do you, when I say those words to you, what do you remember?
Probably some of the best times of my life. I mean, the back from Dog Soldiers, that cast is, everybody's still friends now. And we did a reunion in Manchester just a couple of years ago, and it was the first time all of us had been in the room together for a good 15 years at the same time, and it just turned into the best weekend we'd had. And you feel for these people, like we've always stayed in contact, and we've divided into little small sections here and there as things have gone on. But without those people in my life, I wouldn't have worked as much as I had. That connection when you're on set and when you're working with people like that, if you can find it to build those relationships and keep loyal to them, you've got work and you've got a career. It's so important.
Yeah, the thing I remember about Dog Soldiers, because obviously it was quite landmark at the time, this kind of British horror movie. And I remember maybe 5 years after it came out, I was in Cannes as a new filmmaker, wide-eyed, oh my God. And then it was we saw Neil Marshall at a party. And obviously at that time, I think he'd done a couple of features, but your average person wouldn't recognize him. But to us, it was, oh my God, it's Neil Marshall, Dog Soldiers, because we were all kind of aiming at that sort of indie horror film to make
Yeah.
ourselves. Um, and then, am I right in saying, so on The Descent, you were one of the creature things? Wait, is that right?
Yeah, so I did basically the majority of the choreography and the development for the Beast, and I think they give me a character name called Scar.
Nice.
So yeah, and that was amazing as well. You know, just to run around and kind of do what you do. And at the time, I was very much into physical theatre and movement, so it kind of served a purpose. It was good fun.
Yeah. And what's the advice there? Because I'm assuming you had loads of stuff, prosthetics and things on you. So what would you did you notice anything? And obviously that was in Dog Soldiers as well. Did you notice anything that Neil does with that type of performance that kind of enhances it?
Yeah, I mean, he allowed me to spend a good kind of week or so with the other characters within a room. We went to like a gym area, um, and we developed a way of moving and breathing, and we shot it and we filmed it, and then we trialed different looks for the creatures. Um, and I think it's the freedom to just explore that. What Neil's very good at is that he's extremely honest, but and very open. So he will allow you to explore something um, to the point of you can feel quite freely. And when I say feel, I don't mean you get it wrong. I mean you feel in a really splendid way because you're not fearing judgment. What he's looking for is to see, is there a moment within what you're doing that is going to work for his edit?
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's a lovely thing to have as a director, to be able to have that confidence. And even kind of mid take, if you're doing something and Neil knows he's got it, you're not going to go to the end of the take. You go, that's right, I've got it. Great, let's move on. So he knows he's got his beats ready. He knows where it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is a tough one that because you kind of want to encourage everybody to be free with ideas, and for like you said, there's no such thing as a stupid idea. Just throw it out there. And in a way, as a director, I think sometimes that starts with you being prepared to look stupid and not care. And once you break through that barrier, everyone kind of feels a little bit more relaxed. So back to Red Riding. So what's the plan post Fright Fest? Have you got sales and distribution sorted? Do you know where it's going? Do you know what's
I,
happening with
I,
it?
I I don't know exactly where it's going, but I did meet with the producer yesterday, and he said, we should have news within the next couple of weeks. So I'm hoping. I think it has been picked up, but I don't know who yet. So it's an exciting time, but it's also, as you say, it's a daunting one because who knows what people are going to respond to it and how they're going to respond. All I know is I'm extremely proud of all of the cast and crew. I'm proud of myself for doing it, and whatever happens, we made a film, and that is, as I say to every filmmaker, is probably the most incredible experience, but one of the most hardest things to actually do. So for that, I pat myself on the back.
Yeah, absolutely. And a film is not easy. Um, so looking back on that film, is there anything you wish you knew when you started making it?
Yeah, how to direct.
That's me on every film, I think.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I wish I knew, but I think it's made me very aware of the kind of stories that I want to continue to tell. It's helped me as an actor. It's given me an even greater respect for the industry as well, and even more of a love for it. I knew I loved independent film and working with independents, but I didn't realize how much I was devoted to it. So now I've got a real want to help other people get their films made.
Yeah, 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 very good. And last question I ask a lot of my guests is: have you got a motto? Have you got any kind of mantra that sees you through filmmaking?
I think if I've got anything which I do actually kind of teach a lot is figure out the part you're trying to play, and by that what I mean is we tend to try a lot to be something for other people, but when you start to accept that where you are, what you've got with whatever talent it is you're focused on, when you know that that is enough, you stop trying to impress and you start doing things, and that is such good motivation when the noise becomes too loud to just go, actually, I am the part I'm playing. It's me. It's not about being a director or a title or a name or a crew member or part of a group. It's actually just being who you are, where you are in that moment, and trying to stay as present as you can so you don't get, like I said, distracted by the noise.
I hope that was useful. If you're interested in learning more about micro and low budget film production, I suggest you check out How to Make an Indie Feature for $10,000 with Sean and Taylor King. They've pretty much got their own little production company and studio set up and make a film every year, get them out there and actually make profit on them. So it's a really interesting chat. See you on the next one.